Okay. Part one of the master key system. Now, the introduction and the forward talked about natural laws, that the master key system is a system that has been built off the principles of the universe, natural law. They're changeless principles. They're scientifically proven to be shown that this is how it works. This is what it is. This is how it is for everybody. Learning the basic law of basic practices, basic principles that we can put into practice is what's going to give us everything that we need to succeed and to move forward in our life, to become a greater character, to become a greater man, woman, individual, to become somebody extraordinary, to become somebody that's reliable, to become somebody that's just, to become great, because it all lies in our thinking and our thoughts. We have to think upon a certain plane. In the system of thought that we think upon, the plane that we think upon is going to be based in rules, laws that are not created by us, created by our creator, created by the infinite mind, the intelligence of the universe, the universal mind, the spirit of God. This intelligence has created principles and has given us the power to live and apply those principles in our life, but we need to attach ourselves to them. And that is done through thinking, that is done through understanding them. That being said, let's get started with part one. So, the Master Key System, part one, by Charles F. Haanel. By the way, I do have this system completely recorded. I recorded it last year, and I put it on a coaching channel that I created last year. I created a new one this year because I changed the name that I go by. I go by Wayne now. I said this in a video prior. Wayne is the name I share with my father, and that is who the world is going to know me as. Only my family can call me by my first name. So anyway, moving that to my new channel. It will be available for you to listen to it. And this is my docu-series of me going through the system myself. Get myself out of this shithole that I got myself into by the mistakes that I've made and these setbacks that I'm dealing with. Because I know I have to change as an individual to overcome these circumstances. I have to become a better man, and we are here to get better. So that being said, let's get started. It is my privilege to enclose here part one of the Master Key System. Would you bring into your life more power? Get the power consciousness. More health? Get the health consciousness. More happiness? Get the happiness consciousness. Live the spirit of these things until they become yours by right. It will then become impossible to keep them from you. The things of the world are fluid to a power within man by which he rules them. So what he's telling us in this first paragraph is that, well, we will go over about consciousness, our mental attitude. In order to achieve power in our life, we have to have a consciousness of power. We have to think from a viewpoint of power. In order to attain health, we have to have a health consciousness. We have to understand it. We have to think from the viewpoint of being healthy. We have to be the thing. In order to get happiness, we have to have a happiness consciousness. We have to think of things from the viewpoint of happiness. Now, I personally, as an individual, believe happiness is also, Abraham Lincoln does say that we are as happy as we allow ourselves to be or think of ourselves to be. I do not disagree with him. very great, very honorable, very intelligent man, and maybe he knows something that I don't know. He said we are as happy as we make up our minds to be, but I know it is pretty darn hard to be happy when you are not in a very desirable state or situation. If I was in a car and I was rolling down a hill, I definitely would not be happy in that situation. Fuck that. Anyway, I use that as an analogy for certain situations and circumstances we find ourselves in our life. There are some things that definitely will not, it's okay not to be happy about. Then when he goes on to sing, live the spirit of these things, we have to embody these things internally, right? We have to develop that consciousness. We have to be it first from our mind. We have to think from the perspective of power. We have to think from the perspective of health. Same thing with building wealth. If we want to build wealth, we have to live in the spirit of a wealthy person. We have to think as a wealthy person. We have to be that person, and then it'll manifest for us externally. We will start to attract things externally and create the external world to be in congruence with who we know ourselves to be internally. It will then become impossible to keep them from you. They will naturally come to you. The things of the world are fluid to a power within man by which he rules them. So the power within man has dominion over the material world, specifically material things that don't have life within themselves as we do, or other things, creatures, things and whatnot that just aren't developed in consciousness as much as we are. And because of our level of development in consciousness is what gives us power over the less developed beings in consciousness. You need not acquire this power, you already have it, but you want to understand it, you want to use it, you want to control it, you want to impregnate yourself with it so that you can go forward and carry the world before you. Day by day, as you go on, as you gain momentum, as your inspiration deepens, as your plans crystallize, as you gain understanding, you will come to realize that this world is no dead pile of stones and timber, but that it is a living thing. It is made up of the beating hearts of humanity. It is a thing of life and beauty. It is evident that it requires understanding to work with material of this description, but those who come into this understanding are inspired by a new light, a new force. They gain confidence and greater power each day. They realize their hopes and their dreams come true. Life has a deeper, fuller, clearer meaning than before. And now, part one. That was the introduction of part one. So getting into the meat and bones of part one. That much gathers more is true on every plane of existence, and that loss leads to greater loss is equally true. Mind is creative, and conditions, environment, and all experiences in life are the result of our habitual or predominant mental attitude. The attitude of mind necessarily depends upon what we think. Therefore, the secret of all power, all achievement, and all possession depends upon our method of thinking. This is true because we must be before we can do, and we can do only to the extent which we are, and what we are depends upon what we think. We cannot express powers that we do not possess. The only way by which we may secure possession of power is to become conscious of power, and we can never become conscious of power until we learn that all power is from within. So this power that Charles of Haanel was talking about is a power that already exists within us, but we have to become aware of it. We have to become conscious of it, of how it works, how it acts, how it is, how we can use it. He's saying this power lies within our own mental attitude. So we have to develop the mental attitude that is necessary for us to achieve success in whatever endeavor that we are trying to undertake, in whatever achievement that we are trying to possess, attain, that is based in our thinking. It all lies back into our way of thinking, because our thoughts are the seeds of our behavior, of our actions, and our actions are responsible for the influences that it creates, so to speak, in our environment, in the external world. There is a world within, a world of thought and feeling and power, of light and life and beauty. And although invisible, its forces are mighty. So this inner world that he is telling us that the power lies in is an invisible world. It is a spiritual world. It is based in spiritual foundations, reality, because we know this life, the life of who we are in these bodies, is spiritual life. It is the essence of the spirit giving power to these bodies. The world within is governed by mind. When we discover this world, we shall find the solution for every problem, the cause for every effect. And since the world within is subject to our control, all laws of power and possession are also within our control. Oh, give me 1 second. You want to see the chair I've been sitting on since I started with my first video in the forward? Boom, look at that. Cushions. It's all right, Mr. Wayne. Eventually, when you develop more spiritual power, you develop that skill that the world needs, that you're extremely good at, and they're willing to pay you a shit ton of money for, then you'll have the baddest, badass chair to sit in. Cool? Kudos? Cool. My legs are cramping up hard. So, let's get through this. The world within is governed by mind. When we discover this world, we shall find the solution for every problem, the cause for every effect. And since the world within is subject to our control, all laws of power and possession are also within. Excuse me. They are also within our control. The world without is a reflection of the world within. What appears without is what has been found within. In the world within may be found infinite wisdom, infinite power, infinite supply of all that is necessary, waiting for unfoldment, development, and expression. If we recognize these potentialities in the world within, they will take form in the world without. So the spiritual world that exists inside of us is intangible, it's invisible, but is responsible for the creation of manifesting. It is responsible for making our behavior. It is responsible for developing our mind. It is responsible for our attitude of mind. Because the essence of the mind lies within this spiritual essence, this spiritual power. And learning that we must think in a specific way to pull this power that already exists outside of us. It's like thought is the connecting link. It is what allows you to plug into the infinite resources that already exist within you. It is through understanding them. It's understanding the law. Through understanding and application of the law, we are then plugging ourselves into the infinite resources that already exist within us. And by the application and use of the law is what gives us the ability to develop whatever it is that already exists inside of us, to bring it to the surface, to unfold it. Harmony in the world within will be reflected in the world without by harmonious conditions, agreeable surroundings, the best of everything. It is the foundation of health and a necessary essential to all greatness, all power, all attainment, all achievement, and all success. So, having harmony within ourselves is based upon the understanding of who we are as individuals. In understanding who we are, specifically the mind, which we are being told is based in natural working laws. It is what is going to give us all the greatness we want, all the power we want, all the attainment we want, and achievement, and the success that we desire. Understanding ourselves. Harmony in the world within means the ability to control our thoughts and to determine for ourselves how any experience is to affect us. Harmony in the world within results in optimism and affluence. Affluence within results in affluence without. The world without reflects the circumstances and the conditions of the consciousness within. If we find wisdom in the world within, we shall have the understanding to discern the marvelous possibilities that are latent in this world within, and we shall be given the power to make these possibilities manifest in the world without. As we become conscious of the wisdom in the world within, we mentally take possession of this wisdom. By taking mental possession, we come into actual possession of the power and wisdom necessary to bring into manifestation the essentials necessary for our most complete and harmonious development. The world within is the practical world in which the men and women of power generate courage, hope, enthusiasm, confidence, trust, and faith, by which they are given the fine intelligence to see the vision and the practical skill to make the vision real. Life is an unfoldment, not an accretion. What comes to us in the world without is what we already possess in the world within. So what he said in that statement is life is something that unfolds for us. It is not something that just happens to us. And this is all found based within our own thinking. Because as I said, I'm the one responsible for getting myself in the situation. And I'm the one who has to change. And I'm the one that has to get better. And it starts with ourselves. All possession is based on consciousness. All gain is the result of an accumulative consciousness. All loss is the result of a scattering consciousness. Mental efficiency is contingent upon harmony. Discord means confusion. Therefore, he who would acquire power must be in harmony with natural law, must be in harmony with himself, must be in harmony through understanding of the natural working principles of this universe which we live, of this thing which we know as life. We are related to the world without by the objective mind. The brain is the organ of this mind, and the cerebral spinal system of nerves puts us in conscious communication with every part of the body. This system of nerves responds to every sensation of light, heat, odor, and sound. When this mind thinks correctly, when it understands the truth, when the thoughts sent through the cerebral spinal system, nervous system to the body are constructive, these sensations are pleasant, harmonious. The result is that we build strength, vitality, and all constructive forces into our body. But it is through this same objective mind that all distress, sickness, lack, limitation, and every form of discord and inharmony is admitted to our lives. It is therefore through the objective mind, by wrong thinking, that we are related to all destructive forces. We are related to the world within by the subconscious mind. The solar plexus is the organ of this mind. The sympathetic system of nerves presides over all subjective sensations such as joy, fear, love, emotion, respiration, imagination, and all other subconscious phenomena. It is through the subconscious that we are connected with the universal mind and brought into relation with the infinite constructive forces of the universe. It is the coordination of these two centers of our being and the understanding of their functions which is the great secret of life. With this knowledge, we can bring the objective and subjective minds into conscious cooperation and thus coordinate the finite and the infinite. Our future is entirely within our own control. It is not at the mercy of any capricious or uncertain external power. All agree that there is but one principle or consciousness pervading the entire universe, occupying all space, and being essentially the same in kind at every point of its presence. It is all-powerful, all wisdom, and always present. All thoughts and things are within itself. It is all in all. There is but one consciousness in the universe able to think, and when it thinks, its thoughts become objective things to it. As this consciousness is omnipresent, as it is everywhere, it must be present within every individual. Each individual must be a manifestation of that omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent consciousness. Now, omnipotent is all-powerful. Omniscient is all-knowing, and omnipresent is everywhere present. And as he is saying, consciousness being also awareness, being also the spiritual substance of the universe, being as this spiritual intelligence pervades all living things, pervades all empty space, pervades every single aspect of the universe, and penetrates all material bodies. Everything is material is here from the spiritual being the foundational source and power of all manifested things. You and I not being any different. You and I are created. These material bodies of which we live in is made out of spiritual power, made out of spiritual energy. As there is but one consciousness in the universe that is able to think, it necessarily follows that your consciousness, that our consciousness, yours and mine, is identical with the universal consciousness, or, in other words, all mind is one mind. There's no dodging this conclusion. And the Christ says the same thing in the New Testament, that God is one, God is all, and this one is one. It's just one. Everything is part of this one. Everything is expressions of this one. This is why Jesus had no issues with saying he was God, that he was one with the Father, that he was created in the image and likeness of God, and embodying the image of God through Christ, becoming God in the flesh because of his knowing and understanding of this infinite mind, this power, and applying it and embodying the essence of what the Spirit is. As he said, we're all children of God. We can all embody Christ if we just listen and understand. Because as Abel Allen said in the Message of New Thought, the real message of New Thought and its ultimate meaning is the understanding that God is one with everything, and everything is one with God, and And each one of us, when we reach the final conclusion, that each one of us will be able to say with the master teacher that I and my Father are one. The consciousness that focuses in your brain cells is the same consciousness which focuses in the brain cells of every other individual. Each individual is but the individualization of the universal or cosmic mind. Okay, so what he is saying there, that me as Mr. Wayne, Corey Wayne Anderson, I am this physical being. I live as an individual personality in this body. But the spiritual essence of which I am made out of, this personality of which I am made, or this physical being that I am manifested in, is the underlying reality of me, is the same exact source, same exact power that is the underlying reality of you. As we were saying in the opening, when it comes to our brain, that the brain, our awareness, our consciousness is not a part of the brain, it's expressed through the brain, right? The spirit of who we are in the mind of which we have is expressed through our brain. It is the organ of which this expression can happen. I don't know any other way to say it. It's what dictates our behavior. But the power that's creating Corey Wayne Anderson to be this is the exact same power that is creating you to be who you are. And as he is saying, we already have the power. We are the power. It is just in understanding how this power works, how these laws work, and using our thoughts and our mental images to create ourselves to be a certain way through consciousness. Since consciousness is spiritual, it's something that can change and mold into something different. This character as Corey Wayne Anderson can be molded and fashioned into whoever I want him to be. Because ultimately he comes, the power that is behind him is the one power that exists within the universe. That's why they say there's absolutely nothing that we cannot do. There's nothing that we cannot achieve, because the power backed behind that achievement is this very same power that has created the entire universe altogether. Each individual is but the individualization of the universal or cosmic mind. The universal mind is static or potential energy. It simply is. It can manifest only through the individual, and the individual can manifest only through the universal. They are one. The ability of the individual to think is his ability to act on the universal and bring it into manifestation. And as he said in this part, that it's the coordination of our conscious and subconscious mind that is the main objective, because the subconscious, says right here, it is through the subconscious that we are connected with the universal mind and brought into relation with the infinite constructive forces of the universe. So the subconscious mind is what is our sole responsibility for dealing with. And our subconscious mind is what's going to bring us towards the things that we desire. Because the ability of the individual to think is his ability to act on the universal and bring it into manifestation. So we have to work with the subconscious. Since the subconscious is the connecting link between the finite and the infinite, and thought, the conscious mind, being the link which directs the subconscious towards a specific purpose. Human consciousness consists only in the ability of man to think. Mind in itself is believed to be a subtle form of static energy, from which arises the activities called thought, which is the dynamic phase of mind. Mind is static energy. Thought is dynamic energy, the two phases of the same thing. Thought is therefore the vibratory force formed by converting static mind into dynamic mind. So what he says right there, now what I'll use as an example of how this process works when you're in a state of meditation and you're just focused upon your awareness. You're not focused or thinking, you're not focused or thinking about anything. Your mind enters into a state of static energy. It relaxes. It becomes static. It becomes just closer to its pure form of vibration, so to speak, in its essence. But when the mind begins to think about specific things, when it thinks about a specific subject, for example, if I'm in a state of meditation and I'm just focused on my breathing, but then I move into thinking about fitness, my mind moves from a static form to move into a dynamic form of thought, which is mind in motion, energy in motion. And it becomes an expression of our mental attitude. As the sum of all attributes are contained in the universal mind, which is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, these attributes must be present at all times in their potential form in every individual. Now that statement is of utmost importance because he's saying as every characteristic, every attribute, every just moral virtue you can embody exists in the universal mind. It already exists in the power of God. And this power that has the ability to create anything that exists within you, all the attributes that exist within God, the universal mind, also exists within us. And it's through our thoughts that our thoughts are what our thought is the process that will allow us to pull these attributes out of their potential static form that already exists inside of us into their dynamic characteristic form for us to express in the external world. Because it already exists within us. See, Jesus knew this and understood this, which is exactly why he told us that Christ is something that is available to us as well. Because if we are one with the Father, and we're made out of the same substance as the Father, being created in its image, everything that's already existent within the Father already exists within us. In Christ being the image of God in man, when we embody Christ, we are pulling the attributes of God that already exist with us to the surface of our mind. It becomes our character. In the ways available to us. Therefore, when the individual thinks, the thought is compelled by its nature to embody itself in an objectivity or condition which will correspond with its origin. Now, what that statement means, since consciousness is the creative substance of the universe, and you and I are conscious beings. We are consciousness in totality. And that the sum of any attribute that exists in the universe can be expressed through us, through our method of thinking, through our way of thinking. When we think and bring our consciousness from a static state into a dynamic state, and we embody that state of thought which we are thinking of, remember, it becomes a part of our character. We express it. We are who we are because of how we think. Remember that. And he says here, The thought is compelled by its nature to embody itself in objectivity or condition, that the nature of thought, being consciousness in motion, will express itself. It has to embody itself. It has to express itself in form. And the form of expression it will take is through you, through us, in an objectivity or condition which will correspond with its origin. So what he is saying, that thought is the main cause for the conditions, circumstances, and for our own behavior. It all has its underlying reality in the functioning of our own thinking process. He moves on to this next statement, which he says, every thought, therefore, is a cause, every condition an effect. For this reason, it is absolutely essential that you control your thoughts so as to bring forth only desirable conditions. Now, again, this is why, as Napoleon Hill told us, it is so important for us to know exactly what it is that we want. Because when we want something, we know what it is that we want. Because we know that we want it, we would have no problem thinking about it on a continuous, consistent basis. All power is from within and is absolutely under your control. It comes through exact knowledge and by the voluntary exercises of exact principles. It should be plain that when you acquire a thorough understanding of this law and are able to control your thought processes, you can apply it to any condition. In other words, you will have come into conscious cooperation with omnipotent law, which is the fundamental basis of all things. And as I said in the beginning, this system is of the utmost importance because it deals with bringing our mind in congruence to natural law, because it has everything to do with spirituality and spiritual principles. And since spiritual is the basis and foundation of all things, we can apply spiritual principles to any aspect of our life, regardless of what it is that we're trying to create. It all has its foundation in spirituality. The majority of mankind lives in the world without. If you have been found in the world within. If you have been found in the world within. I threw been in there. Few men have been found in the world within. My apologies. Few have found the world within. And yet it is the world within that makes the world without. It is therefore creative. And this being true, this explains why so many people are living their lives not being able to create or live the lives that they desire, because they don't understand this power that they have. Even if they do understand it, they're not using it as much as they know they should be. Because as somebody that's already been through this, I know there is a mental discipline involved. And with the amount of distractions that we deal with on a daily basis in this world, because attention is the most important currency, time and attention. It's developing the mental discipline to keep our attention focused on the tasks at hand, what's most important. That's why we have to have our priorities. The universal mind is the life principle of every atom which is in existence. Every atom is continually striving to manifest more life. All are intelligent, and all are seeking to carry out the purpose for which they are created. A majority of mankind lives in the world without. Few have found the world within, and yet it is the world within that makes the world without. It is therefore creative, and everything which you find in your world without has been created by you in the world within. This system will bring you into a realization of power, which will be yours when you understand this relation between the world without and the world within. The world within is the cause, the world without the effect. To change the effect, you must change the cause. You will at once see that this is a radically new and different idea. Most men try to change effects by working with effects. They fail to see that this is simply changing one form of distress for another. To remove discord, we must remove the cause, and this cause can be found only in the world within. All growth is from within. This is evident in all nature. Every plant, every animal, every human is a living testimony to this great law. The era of the ages isn't looking for strength or power from without. The world without is the universal fountain of supply. The world without, my apologies, I'm making mistakes now. The world within is the universal fountain of supply, and the world without is the outlet to the stream. Reading all this really got me thinking in when we say we've had things that have been right with us this entire time. I've had this book with me this entire time. I've gone through it many times before. Maybe I wasn't mature enough. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I didn't want to be so disciplined in the mind. Because I do like to have fun. I do like to unplug. I do like to binge on things that aren't exactly for my benefit. You know, I know you know. But we reach a point in our lives where we don't really have much of a choice. Especially when we're trying to be somewhere, to get somewhere. This is a process that we have to do. It's a discipline that we have to have. Disciplining the mind is 100 times harder than disciplining the body. That is a fact that I know to be true. If you think disciplining your body is hard, discipline your mind. Then you'll know what's really hard. Our ability to receive depends upon our recognition of this universal fountain, this infinite energy of which each individual is but an outlet, and so is one with every other individual. Recognition is a mental process. Mental action is therefore the interaction of the individual upon the universal mind. As the universal mind is the intelligence which pervades all space and animates all living things. This mental action and reaction is the law of causation. But the principle of causation does not obtain in the individual, but in the universal mind. It is not an objective faculty, but a subjective process. As we said, it is dealing with our own subconscious mind. The law of causation has more to do with our subconscious mind than it has anything to do with our objective mind. But the objective mind still has a part, because the objective mind is responsible for directing the subjective. We will cover this, we will go through this, and this is why mental discipline is so important. Because our subconscious will accept things to be true, whether it's true or not. It'll accept the direction the conscious mind gives it, whether it's good or not. And the results are seen in an infinite variety of conditions and experiences. In order to express life, there must be mind. Nothing can exist without mind. Everything which exists is some manifestation of this one basic substance from which and by which all things have been created and are continually being recreated and are continually being recreated. Kind of sounded like I mixed those three words into one. We live in a fathomless sea of plastic mind substance. This substance is ever alive and active. It is sensitive to the highest degree. It takes form according to the mental demand. Thought forms the mold or matrix from which the substance expresses. Plastic mind substance is the spiritual essence of consciousness that pervades the entire universe. It is the Spirit of God. It is the mind of God. It is the liveness of the universe. Because God is here with us now. And this substance is ever alive and active. It is here and now, waiting to be brought into expression. Here to be brought into expression. It is sensitive to the highest degree. It is receptive to all the thoughts that we have, and the words that we speak, and the actions that we take. It takes form according to mental demand, since it rests in a static state, in a state of not, in a state of just being. And since thought, being the dynamic phase of this state, it is this power in motion. It moves in accordance to thought. It moves in accordance to mental demand. Thought forms the mold or matrix from which the substance expresses. Remember that it is in the application alone that the value consists, and that a practical understanding of this law will substitute abundance for poverty, wisdom for ignorance, harmony for discord, and freedom for tyranny. And certainly there can be no greater blessing than these from a material and social standpoint. Now make the application. Select a room where you can be alone and undisturbed. Sit erect, comfortably, but do not lounge. Let your thoughts roam where they will, but be perfectly still for from 15 minutes to half an hour. Continue this for 3 or 4 days or for a week until you secure full control of your physical being. Many will find this extremely difficult. Others will conquer with ease. But it is absolutely essential to secure complete control of the body before you're ready to progress. Next week, you will receive instructions for the next step. In the meantime, you must have mastered this one. Since we're staying on one part every week, it's a 6-month program, as we have covered. It is a 24-part program. We will be... Let's do the full 30 minutes. We'll do the full 30 minutes of meditation. As he said, don't worry about not thinking. Don't worry about controlling your thoughts. Just think about whatever comes to mind. But gain a level of control over the physical body. So he's saying it is essential to have control over the body before he gives us the next step. So that being said, that is the end of part 1. If you made it to the end of this video with me, viewer, we are moving forward and learning something that most people do not know. And as he said, reading about them will not make anything different. Understanding them will not make a difference. It's applying what it is that we know. So I'm going to be reading this part every day for the next week and doing the exercise. And next week, I will give you a recap of what we've done, how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking by then, and we will go over part 2. Cool.